Hello there everyone and welcome back. This is Tosashi and today I'm doing another tier list video of Super Mecha Champions where I'm ranking each mecha that's currently in the roster, and it's 33, so that's quite a bit. I'm gonna try and keep it brief, but at the same time also I'm gonna try and keep it informative as usual based on my own experiences. I've been playing since Season 10. You will see some statistics here in case you care about that. I'm definitely just a casual player basically. I have been playing I think a couple of matches at least per day for the past 2.5 years, so I have some experience. I got all mecha above level 25 except for the new one, Skyfire, and even though it technically came out in season 19, it just came out with the new start of the season, so I will still take it with the season 18 reflections. Other than that, yeah, it's a tier ranking video, so my opinions might differ from yours. If that is the case, feel free to leave a civil comment below. I do appreciate that always. We can engage in discussion or just agree to disagree, that's all fine. As you can see, this year, or this season, I've been trying to give meaning to the quite abstract rankings because, you know, what is S plus for me could be A for someone else. I'm trying to define them where S plus, those are the supreme mecha. Those are mecha that just will always have like an extra advantage over the rest. And then there's the versatile mecha in the S rank. Those are mecha that are just so good that they can adapt to different situations, that are effective on different ranges, or so good in what they do that they can kind of like compensate for their weaknesses with such good strengths. So versatile, versatility I value a lot in PvP games anyway. But yeah, that for me, that's the definition of an S rank. A rank mecha are strong, balanced, well-rounded, just good as they are basically. Then in the B tier, I noticed the past few seasons some people get a little bit confused by this. So B is still pretty good, I would say. But these are mecha that are a bit more specialized. They have a certain strategy that you have to play by. And if you don't, or if the enemy takes advantage of your specialization, by turning it into a weakness basically, then you're gonna struggle a little bit more. So B is not bad, but B is more specialized in my case. And C, I'm not expecting too many mecha to fall in this category, but these are mecha that I think deserve some attention from the developers, some buffs, basically to increase its capabilities in combat. I'm gonna focus mostly around Battle Royale, that's what I play the most. But of course, yeah, things can be different in Team Deathmatch or the different modes that exist. I mostly play Battle Royale, solo or squad games. So I think without further ado, let's jump into it. And start it off with Firefox. I think Firefox is a very strong mecha. It has good damage, one of the best in the game. It has good durability. Also, when you dash around, you get this temporary shields, like for 600 hit points. That's quite substantial. It's not as fast. It doesn't jump so well as other mecha. So, especially against mecha that are like jumping from rooftop to rooftop, Firefox can definitely struggle. But you know, if you can snipe them off the roof, they're dead anyway. So yeah, I think Firefox is a strong mecha. Arthur, I will place here in the versatile tier, because it's hyper mobile. Arthur is one of the most mobile mecha in the game. It's hard to keep track of an enemy Arthur if they know what they're doing. But I do have to say, without jump pads, Arthur cannot get to any position in the game, and that's why I think it is deserving of an S rank. It has really good damage. It has good defenses. I think it has like 3100 durability currently. It has ways of increasing its own shield. If you build it that way, it is highly adaptable to multiple situations, can engage, disengage quickly. Its range is alright, not the best, because on the long range it's getting a little bit harder to hit with those blade arcs, but it mostly struggles against mecha that are even more mobile. So yeah, definitely good. And then I think Caramel is a good example of a supreme mecha. And I know some people are not seeing the potential of this mecha, but this mecha is so incredibly powerful. I will explain why. Caramel is very beefy. It's a thick mecha, let's say. It has 3600 durability, and on top of that, it does incredible damage. It shoots AoE damage, so it's also easy to hit. It shoots fast, especially with Core 1. It shoots super fast. It just melts people. Then it has a secondary ability that also does a lot of AoE damage and just a lot of damage in general, and also displaces the enemy. It can break flight, it can break combos, it can literally push them off a building. You know, there's some control that you can execute there. It's effective on all ranges. And with its jump button that also deals damage, by the way, it can get in any imaginable position in the game. There's a couple of mecha that can do that, but almost no mecha can do it with such ease as Caramel can. And then Caramel can also take advantage of being in a high position by transforming into its tank mode. And the tank mode is basically an AoE sniper. Not only does it highlight the enemies by having this little red silhouette, it also does a lot of AoE damage. And with Core 2, if you prefer that, you can snipe like crazy. You shoot faster, you shoot more, do more damage. So Caramel is effective in all ranges. So that I don't see any weaknesses. And the only weakness that I have encountered while playing with Caramel is that it consumes a lot of fuel, because you want to be jumping around a lot, you know, and at some point you're out of fuel, and then you basically sitting duck or sitting bear in this case, and then you can be taken down pretty quickly. So what I did is I put fuel efficiency modules in my defensive module slots, and now I don't have that problem anymore at all. So I think Caramel is one of the supreme mecha in this game. Skylark I will place next to Firefox here. It's fast, it has really good damage, it has some self-sustain with its secondary. Secondary is a bit more difficult to hit, but when you do, it does good damage, long range, heals itself. It's a little bit more squishy, so compared to all of these, this one has only 2700 durability. And it's fast, so especially when you combine it with Wing of Swiftness from Mobius, the pilot ability, it's really hard to catch a Skylark. But Skylark has a similar problem like Firefox, and that it struggles against enemies that have good versatility. So Skylark, of course, if you have a jump pad, you know, you kind of change that, but you cannot always find jump pads, and I think not all levels have them. So Skylark, very well-rounded, cool mecha, always nice to have in your squad for some fire, supporting fire, medium to long distance. And it's also a really decent brawler if you keep jumping and strafing around, but you cannot get everywhere. Hotsteel, I would say, is also a strong mecha, maybe versatile. Let's start here. So it has really good mobility, but it's really big. So in that sense, it's a relatively easy to hit mecha, because it's has the biggest frame in the entire game. It's fast though, surprisingly agile. It can get in any position, actually in better positions than Arthur. It can get in any position similar to Caramel, but with more effort. You really have to use the abilities in the right order, with the right timing and stuff. You have to have enough fuel in the right moments. But the thing is, where Caramel keeps shining is that Caramel can benefit from being on top of like a crane or on top of a castle or building, while Hotsteel has very slow shots that are strongest in melee to close range. Medium range, it's already starting to fall off because the shots are relatively slow. So in that sense, it cannot benefit as much as the other mecha from the height, Arthur is also better at that than Arthur. Arthur definitely has better mobility, more versatility. So I think Hotsteel is a strong mecha. It has its weaknesses, that's the long distance basically. But it also has its strengths, and that's being like in your face basically, and its mobility. Firestar I will place right here next to Arthur. I think Firestar can get in almost any position in the game, but it takes a bit more effort. Has good damage, similar to Caramel. Shoots fast, shoots a lot, and also when it hits the enemy will stay visible even if you don't see them. Where Skylark needs a module for that, Firestar just has that built in. It's because you don't really see the silhouette, but you do see the numbers from the damage you're dealing over time. And this makes them still visible if they're moving behind a building or behind a wall or whatever, a hill. You can still keep tracking them. Firestar is strong in all ranges. Shines in melee range with the flamethrower and everything. And one of the cores as well, the flaming wheel I think it's called. Firestar is amazing, good mobility, good damage, more like sustained damage. It takes some effort to practice it, but I think it's really powerful. Now, Gabriel, I think is definitely strong, but it's absolutely not versatile. So Gabriel is a good sniper, has very good damage, and if you do all the combinations correctly with the scope, no scope blasting, you can do a lot of DPS. However, in melee range, it really gets taken down easily by any other mecha, I would say. Of course, there's exceptions. There's people that still make it shine in melee range, but I think that's more because of the player being good rather than the mecha allowing you to do that in a way. So yeah, I think Gabriel is a highly specialized mecha. Shines in squad games where it can just keep sniping people while the rest cleans up and protects it basically. I think it's a very good support damage mecha. And solo is already more tough to pull it off. Then Andromeda I will place next to Caramel here, because I think Andromeda probably in the current state of the game is, well, amongst the strongest, but maybe even the strongest mecha in the game, because it can fly. I mean, most mecha cannot fly, but Andromeda can just fly for long times, outplay the enemy by dropping, falling, while keep shooting. The dash is very short, but it also has a short cooldown. It has good damage. It's squishy, but it has so much mobility to compensate for its squishiness. And especially if you manage to hover above the enemy. So if you end up in melee range, you can just hover above the enemy, dash through them, then ascend and then descend while keep shooting while the enemy is still trying to figure out where you are. You already blasted to 3/4 of the hit points. So yeah, I think Andromeda is one of the strongest in the game. Can also get in any position. I love this mecha. Hurricane is right there. Also one of the few mecha that can actually fly. Has really good damage, similar to Firefox, but then with incredible mobility. So the way I see Hurricane is basically like an improved Firefox. Sure, Firefox with Core 1 does more single target damage, but Hurricane has this mobility of just dashing upwards, then releasing some homing missiles, then dropping itself behind the building while they take like a lot of damage and they can't find you. And then the moment they come to you, you dash upwards again, empty your clip with machine gunnery and just pin them down, and then another series of rockets is already falling down to them while you drop again. I think Hurricane is so amazing. It has a high skill floor, so it takes quite some effort to get into it. I think of all these mechas so far, yeah, Gabriel is also pretty tough to get into, for me at least. I think Hotsteel also takes quite some practice. But Hurricane, yeah, you really have to put hours and hours in mastering its mobility and the combination of all the dashing, no dashing, flying, hovering, releasing the homing missiles, when to use your machine guns. It's all very delicate, but when you get the hang of it, this Hurricane is a real Hurricane. It will just get anywhere and destroy everything in its path. Raven, I think, is very strong and actually also very versatile. It's a sniper mecha that functions in all ranges. Long range is falling off a little bit, especially compared to Gabriel, because of this. You don't have a scope. However, Raven functions in all ranges. So if someone is brawling right in front of you, like even if I come across like an Arthur or Hotsteel right in my face, even with the Hurricane in my face, I'm relatively confident that I can take the enemy down with the Raven if we're both at full HP, especially with the Chain Electroshock, the pilot ability from Norma. That one is amazing on Raven, does so much damage. You just take them down before they realize what's going on. People say it's Raven is very dependent on Core 1. Core 1 makes it better, yes. I actually prefer Core 2 because then you have even more damage. After basically anything you do more damage. So Raven is all about that damage and all about like floating and falling while shooting. Very interesting skill set. Never have to worry about reloading. Of all the sniping mech, also the easiest to hit because it has pretty big explosive arrows. At least that's how I built Raven. So it might be that you have built it a bit differently, but it's also a very competent brawler. So I think it's a versatile mecha. It can actually get in any position. But if I'm looking, it is also the one with the lowest durability. I think it's like 2500 or 2550. So that's really low. Lowest of any of them, even lower than these two. But it doesn't have the same kind of mobility. Yeah, so just the ability to fly or just jump in any location where you need to be, I think makes these three slightly better than Raven, but Raven is definitely up there. Doomlight I will also place here. It's a very specialized mecha. It's actually a very strong 1 versus 1 in medium range. In long range it can be like a good poker. In squad games it can very successfully find the enemy by just shooting those turrets everywhere, and they will pinpoint the enemy and just showing where the pilots are hiding. But in melee range it starts to really fall off and its mobility is very lacking. It moves slowly. I think it's one of the slowest, if not the slowest moving mecha in the game. It just walks and it can fly upwards, levitate itself basically, and drop itself downwards while shooting. So that's definitely worthwhile. However, its horizontal mobility is really lacking. It doesn't have a dash, it only has the shield. And the shield can be abused, you know. You can just literally, in melee range, go through it or above it or around it, and then the Doomlight has no ways of basically avoiding the enemy. And also if you take down the turrets the moment you see them, the Doomlight itself doesn't have enough damage to compensate for that. Although it is beefy, it is the second beefiest mecha in the game. Hotsteel comes first and then is Doomlight. I'd much rather play a Hotsteel though because of its mobility and its burst potential. Doomlight is fun though, it's a unique playstyle, but because it has a unique playstyle, it can be taken advantage of if the enemy knows what the mecha does, or wants to be doing. Trio Vendors, strong mecha, very similar to what I've said about Firefox and Skylark. It is effective on all ranges. It's actually, I would say, stronger than the other ones in the A rank. However, Trio has pretty bad versatile mobility, but its horizontal mobility is pretty similar to Skylark, where you can strafe and jump, and while doing so you just release all your weaponry, which is amazing. It's super cool, but it does definitely need to be able to be in medium to close range. Long range with the rockets you can still do some poking, but it is falling off then. I would say medium to close range, and it cannot really deal well with people on top of roofs. Okay, Neutron Star. I'll start here. It is a versatile mecha, not in a sense that it can that it is effective in all ranges, because it needs to be in your face. It needs to be close, that's where it shines. Medium range, it can do some poking, and in long range, it's basically useless. But why it is still S rank is because this mecha has so many ways of getting to the enemy real fast. That has really good engaging and disengaging capabilities. With Core 2 it can even fly, similar like a cross between Hurricane and Andromeda. But you do need Core 2 for that. That's why, if it was built in, it was an easy S+ rank. But since it does need Core 2 to fly, and it consumes a lot of fuel as well, even with fuel efficiency modules, even then it consumes a lot of fuel. And even with Joanna's fuel, 10% extra fuel, it is fuel hungry, so you do need to be very careful and mindful of that. But the moment you get in people's face, especially with the secondary weapon, it just chases after them, even if they fly upwards, like a Jump Away or a Hurricane or Andromeda trying to fly above you. You just keep spamming that secondary button, and Neutron Star will charge them through the air, and in that way it can also get on top of buildings when it needs to. Just by itself, it cannot really so well. But it's really fast. You can combine the dashing with the slashing to get some more mobility. Very similar to the momentum leap from Arthur or Raven. They all can utilize momentum to their liking. Just to get a little bit more mobility. The Neutron Star is the same. Does a lot of damage up close, but needs to be up close and has ways of getting there. So I'm always a bit scared. I always panic a little bit when a Neutron Star jumps on me. So usually I try to jump over them with whatever I'm playing with through them, and try to increase my distance, because you don't want Neutron Star in your face. Okay, Boltus I think is pretty strong. It's a pretty well-rounded mecha. It does good damage actually on all ranges, now that I think about it. Since the like 2 seasons ago it got a pretty big rework. And now it's also a pretty competent brawler. It's fast, it dashes well. Its dash can be used to get in most places, not in all places. So maybe Boltus is actually stronger than these, because it can more easily get in a lot of places. It has good damage, especially with the chain electroshock once again from Norma. The cores are alright, but I'm just looking. The thing is, I don't play Boltus that much. I do play these mecha more. So just based on my experience, I'm more inclined to place it here though. It is a strong mecha. But what is it lacking? I think it's not lacking at all. That's just my experience. So I think it is a versatile mech. It can snipe, it can brawl, it can poke on medium range, it can evade. The dash has a relatively long cooldown, but it's not hurting so much actually, and it does a good burst with if you chain all your abilities together. I think it's a good mecha. Yeah, let's keep it there. Same goes for Ventorus, but then again, no Boltus, you go there because it's just a different level. Because also I will place Ventorus here. Ventorus has a really good kit. It can utilize the momentum leap similar to Arthur, Neutron Star and Raven. It has a different mode as well, similar to Caramel, but this mode actually makes it faster, stronger, doesn't consume ammo, just like obliterates people. And then with that mode, it can also dash upwards, so it can get in most places. So most places where Arthur can go, no, all places where Arthur can go, Ventorus can go as well, but easier, but only within the frame of you actually using your dragon mode, or beast mode. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called dragon mode or something. It has good damage in its default mode on the long range to medium range, and then on the close range you transform into dragon mode and just obliterate your enemy. It takes some practice because you do need to be able to burst down when you need to. So if everything is on cooldown, this mecha doesn't do that much. You do need your cooldowns and to manage them carefully. It's pretty beefy actually. It has, I think it's in the top 5 of most beefy mecha in the game. And has good damage, good mobility, but it cannot get in any position. So yeah, I think S rank is good for Ventorus. Then we also have Aurora. Aurora is one of my favorite mecha. I haven't played it actually last season so much, only like 10 games or something. They have buffed it again because they took away some of its extra fuel for its dashing ability, but then they brought it back again. I haven't tried it anymore, but it looked like they just changed changed back what I changed. I think Aurora is an amazing mecha. It works mostly in medium to long range. They actually also changed it from being a burst mecha to a sniper mecha, which makes sense because especially the secondary weapon definitely functions like a snipe. That's also how I play it. I've built it all around that Kamehameha wave. Unique playstyle. You basically jump up, dash yourself upwards, then jump again, and then just hover in the air for finding a juicy target and just snipe them with your secondary. And then a couple of extra blasts are needed, and then the enemy is just dead. So, yeah, be careful in close range. Very often I want to adapt a similar kind of playstyle like Andromeda to be able to not be taken down before I can take down my enemy. Yeah, I think it's a versatile mecha. Can get in a lot of positions, definitely not most. Or definitely most, but not all. Yeah, I think it fits very well here in the versatile category. Alborada is a strong mecha, don't underestimate it. Even though it's kind of presented as a support mecha, giving people and itself shields, it also buffs the damage when it's given shields to itself or enemies. So with the correct build, you can basically do similar things with Alborada as you can do with Boltus damage-wise, where anything you do kind of boosts its damage. I do think Boltus has a way better mobility though, because Alborada's like jump to the side, you do struggle to get on top of certain buildings and stuff. And with some buildings it's not even possible. So very similar to Trio and Skylark and Firefox in that sense. But it has good damage. Boltus has higher damage though, Trio as well. But yeah, you do get the extra shields, which, you know, helps with surviving the enemy. Good damage. I just don't like how it looks, so that's why I don't play it so much. But it is good. Don't underestimate Alborada. Then we're moving on to Michael, and Michael is my current favorite mecha. I was looking through my older videos to see how I ranked all these mecha, and yeah, some of them are moving around to the top and the bottom a little bit based on my understanding and based on certain patches and stuff. But there's two mecha that are always in the S+, always at the top, and those are Hurricane and Michael. And I think these two mecha are just in a tier of their own, I would say. Actually, if I would have an S++ rank for like mecha that are just crazy amazing, it would be these two. Michael, why is it so strong? First of all, okay, it can get in almost any position. So I would say these three, Caramel, Andromeda, and Hurricane, get in positions with more ease. With Michael, can get on most roofs that matter, basically, with relative ease, although it does require some practice, because you need to, you know, maneuver its dash ability and then turn the camera 180 degrees and then dash again. But once you get the hang of that, you can really utilize that in combat as well. What I often do is, if I'm in melee range with someone, I charge through them and then charge upwards to have a similar kind of strategy as I would do with Aurora and Andromeda, because the enemy just gets super confused by it. But the nice thing about Michael is that you can keep shooting almost at all the times that you're in the air. So Hurricane, for example, and Aurora have like dead moments where they are traveling and therefore cannot be shooting effectively or at all. Andromeda also has this to a certain extent, because you do need to be aiming in the direction where you want to be flying to if you want to fly up and down. Michael, however, can just keep looking at its enemy while shooting those daggers. And that's what I'm talking about, medium to long range. On the close range, Michael can also shred with its secondary ability, especially if you have core 2. Oh my god, that core 2 just obliterates people with 3 of those, basically shotgun shots, of those charged feathers. Core 1 is also amazing, just adds more DPS over time and can be kind of annoying to the enemy. The core 2 really turns Michael into a very scary brawler that's almost impossible to catch, especially if you pair it up with the Wings of Swiftness from Mobius. Yeah, which is also, of course, its pilot. So if you then also manage to stack it with Unity, one of the terminal ads, this mecha just becomes unstoppable. But the thing is, you don't need those things. Just if I would pick any mecha from all of these without any modules, both attack modules and defensive modules and terminal ads and any buffs in game, I think just the vanilla version of it, I think Michael is the strongest. Because its kit is just so unique and so wonderful and so versatile and adaptable. Can engage well, can disengage well. Very high DPS, can evade while dealing damage. I love this mecha. Highly recommend it to sink some hours in just to get better with it. It feels like flying, even though you're not. You're just dashing in all directions, and you're not flying, but it feels like flying. Very cool. Okay, Northern Knight, I think I will place here. That's received some love from the developers over the past few seasons. I still think it can deserve a little bit more love, but currently it's in a pretty strong position. That's his shield, which is, at first I always thought that the shield of Northern Knight is less good than the one from Doomlight, because it was smaller and easier to take advantage of as an enemy. But then I checked myself and I played more Northern Knight, and I realized that, well, if the enemy can take advantage of me having a shield and relying on that, I, as a player, as a pilot of Northern Knight, can also take advantage of them doing that. So what I mean by that is, by knowing that the enemy wants to go above me or around me, I can position myself in such a way that they don't benefit from doing that. So what do I mean by that? For example, if you're fighting near hills or buildings, make sure that the high ground is behind your back, so that the enemy cannot easily go around you or above you. So positioning becomes more important with this mecha, but I do notice that if you take care of that, Northern Knight is actually a very strong mecha. It does pretty good damage in medium to close range, and a long range is similar to Hotsteel. The shots are slow, but they're still effective. There's a similar mobility to Boltus, with lower damage but way more durability. And if you can keep phasing the enemy, it's hard for them to go through your shield. It's almost like they have to go through double your durability. So even though it doesn't have strong integrated shields, like they call it shield also, it's a bit confusing, but also the secondary weapon shield, let's say. Yeah, if you manage to use it well and don't have it always on, just have it on, and in the moments when you need to block some of the burst of the enemy, or if they're right in front of you, yeah, it's all about timing. So I think if you manage to pull that off, it becomes a pretty strong mecha. Ranger, I'm thinking here, I think Ranger is pretty good actually, because it has good mobility, very similar to Firestar. It can get in most places because it can make itself smaller, so instead of getting on top of roofs, it can go under bridges and buildings where other mecha cannot go, similar to Firestar. But at the same time, similar to Firestar, it can also get on top of most buildings, especially if you have, I think it's core 2, where you can double dash. It gets even better then. The dash also deals damage. There's good explosive AoE damage in mostly medium to close range. Long range can still work, but its accuracy falls off pretty hard. And I think Firestar is better on the long range too. But in that sense, it is much better in range versatility than Neutron Star, for example. Has pretty decent durability. It's very evasive. Its evasiveness really reminds me of Michael, but Michael has the added benefit of being able to change the direction midair. Ranger cannot do that. And also Ranger cannot shoot while being in the car mode. So that's a big downside to Ranger. It has to really choose to be shooting or not. Shoot or move, basically, similar to Firestar. So even though both of them are very mobile, they don't get into the supreme category here because of that. Flamenco, I would say, is a strong mecha. It's one of the strongest brawlers, I think, in the game currently. So in close range, it really shines. It has actually the same jump like Caramel. So it can get anywhere. But the reason why I'm not putting it higher is because Flamenco really, its damage and its accuracy fall off beyond mid-range. And actually, if you don't have the right build, it already falls off at mid-range. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're piloting Flamenco. It does have a pretty good kit to get close to the enemy. Its sword slashes are actually pretty good. I would say its sword slashes are actually better than Arthur's. So in that sense, it's pretty similar to Neutron Star, that it has a good kit to close the gap. Very easy, just you press the button and it even deals damage on where it lands. I'm just thinking here, because Neutron Star has way better burst in melee range, but Flamenco is probably better in medium range. I'm just thinking, I think, is it S though? Is it S? No, I think it's a strong mecha. But it definitely... Thinking here. No, I think let's keep it in the strong here, because if I compare it with Neutron Star has better burst when it gets in the right position, and Flamenco, even though it has good burst, it needs a bit more time to get in the right position, and it only has the jump, and Neutron Star has the strafe. Yeah, no, I think this is correct like this. Okay, Pulsar I will also place here in the Supreme list, because although it cannot technically fly, it is similar to Michael, where it can stay in the air for so much time during a game and during a battle that and it can benefit from rising and falling while shooting and while transforming from sniper to blasting. And if you do the scope, no scope alterations effectively, you can just keep blasting the enemy while they hardly can touch you. So especially on medium to long range, Pulsar is really hard to grab. And if you combine it with the Wings of Swiftness again, in close range it's pretty good. It has really good burst, and the secondary weapon you can use for dashing and evading, similar to Flamenco and Arthur, but also no, Michael doesn't dash, it only shoots, but it also does a bit of damage. So and it can help you hover in the air when needed, and to break the expectation of the enemy. Yeah, Pulsar is amazing. Very high skill floor though. I think of all these mecha, all of them, I think Pulsar is the most difficult one to play. It's squishy, it's fast, has good damage, but you need to constantly be changing form, chasing elevation while shooting, and your aim has to be really solid. It's a good brawling sniper, I would say. But yeah, I'm playing with two thumbs mostly, and sometimes I claw a little bit with my index fingers. And Pulsar is just, if I haven't played Pulsar in a while and I played again the first few games, I just get sore thumbs, man. It's it is a skill intense mecha, but yeah, if you pull it off, so, yeah, I think these three, Hurricane, Michael, and Pulsar, are amongst the most skill intense mecha. Gabriel too, but these three just give you a lot in return as well. A lot of versatility. Yeah, I love Pulsar. Amazing. It's in my top 10 mecha currently. Top 10 most played. I love it. Okay, Snow Mirage. A viewer of mine has told me that they actually prefer Snow Mirage over Pulsar because it kind of feels like the less mobile, more damaging version of Pulsar, and I do agree with that. I do think Snow Mirage deals more damage in single shots, and it's definitely less mobile. But because of that combination, your aim needs to be superb. If your aim is superb, I think Snow Mirage is probably one of the stronger mechas in the game. And again, you know, you could say it just has a high skill floor, but if I'm looking at the skill ceiling, I think a player with the same amount of skill that's piloting Snow Mirage versus a player with the same amount of skill is piloting Pulsar, is that the Pulsar player will have an advantage because they both have similar durabilities, but Pulsar is just more evasive, and the invisibility from Snow Mirage just doesn't do much, doesn't do enough. So on a long range, yeah, they can kind of become invisible, and it's hard to find them, but you know roughly where they are. So especially in the hills, you can still find them. Pulsar on the other side, or Michael, or Hurricane, or actually all of these S+ rank mecha, they, even though they don't actually disappear, they can move so well they can practically disappear. Where Snow Mirage actually disappears, but doesn't really, because if you pay attention to the enemy mobility and movement, you can still pinpoint where they are roughly. So for me, the increased mobility outweighs the increased damage in a single shot. I think it's still strong though, or is it specialized? No, I think actually Snow Mirage is a specialized mecha because already a couple of patches ago when they nerfed it to the ground, it lost its brawling potential. And similar to Gabriel, the moment the enemy comes close, you have to dash away and snipe again, and snipe while hovering or falling. Sure, that's amazing if you can pull that off, but I'm speaking from the experience of playing against Snow Mirage players. Whenever I see a Snow Mirage or Gabriel and I'm in melee range, I'm like, I got them. When I'm in melee range against a Pulsar or Raven, I'm like, oof, this is still gonna be tricky. And now I'm comparing the snipers, right? So this is still gonna be tricky because they can still outplay me, they can still outmove me or outdamage me. And that's the thing with Snow Mirage and Gabriel. They're good in what they can do, but I think they shine in squad games where they have teammates that can cover them. Okay, JOJO. JOJO is one of those mecha that keeps receiving buff after buff after buff, and every time when a new patch comes out, I'm kind of expecting another JOJO buff because it has been buffed so many times, and I don't know why they keep doing that. Because it came out strong, it stayed strong, and it's still strong. Might even have actually placed it here. I'm thinking now. No, I will place it here. Because even though it's very powerful and it basically creates explosions with anything it does, it cannot shoot while flying. And even though the flying is fast, you can still be hit while flying, similar to Aurora. Aurora, at least when it's hanging in the air with the right build, it takes reduced damage. With JOJO, that's not the case, although JOJO has a very big shield, like built-in shield, like 600 or 700 durability on that shield alone. So that is something that you can definitely play around with. There's good DPS. It's basically like a ranger that can occasionally fly, kind of. Yeah, kind of. It does say here that it's a burst mecha. I think it can burst really well, but I consider it more of a continuous mecha actually. I think it shines in the medium range, and then you can finish off basically the moment they come close to you by just making a lot of exploding bots and explode yourself basically. It's a fun playstyle, very powerful. Skyfall, yeah, Skyfall, Skylark, Skyfire, yeah. Skyfall, I think it's a pretty strong mecha. I was thinking maybe it is a specialized mecha because it's so slow. Yeah, so I think it's a very powerful support mecha. It pokes really well in medium to long range. And on close range it can brawl also pretty well, but it's really slow. It has, I think Doomlight moves a bit slower, but at least it can fly upward and drop itself downwards. Skyfall doesn't have any of that. It can have those kind of homing missiles going on. It has those double rockets going on, so it has good damage. But the moment the enemy is close to you, you're really dependent on your aim and your damage output for your defense, basically. So with Skyfall, definitely it is like strong defense is a strong offense, because you don't have anything else as a defense. So that's why I think I will place it here in a specialized, because it does require a specific playstyle. Thinking though, because also Alborada and Northern Knight require that. No, but they have a better built-in kit. They're a bit more versatile, and I think Skyfall is more specialized in that sense. Speaking of specialized done well, I think Tempest is a very powerful mecha, although it received some rebalances in the last patch that are actually nerfs. So it became slower. Its running speed has been cut down quite a lot, actually. It's very noticeable. And to me, that's a shame, because its running speed was one of its biggest strengths, I would say, combined with its kind of close range kit. Medium range, in my build, it still kind of works, because I focused it around its secondary weapon, those big kunai. Pretty fast and does a lot of damage and gets reset the moment you hit them with the primary. It's all very cool, but you have to be pretty close by to the enemy, and then it requires a lot of jumping, a lot of strafing, and a lot of dashing through the enemy, which is still amazing. Could have done that much better when it has the faster running speed, and now that it doesn't have that anymore, it's become a bit more difficult, but it's still strong. I think it still fits very nicely with this category over here. Let's move on to Akashic. Akashic actually playstyle is kind of a blend between Northern Knight and Tempest. So Akashic has a lot of outplay potential, where if you time your shield correctly, you manage to, similar to Northern Knight, manage to annihilate all the burst of the enemy and then actually use it against them. But it is very dependent on you blocking the right attacks. And they can dash through them, and instead of dealing a lot of damage with that, the follow-up damage is really big. So I would say Akashic is really, it's in a good place. It's a strong mecha. I think they tweaked it until they did it correctly, and now they found a nice place for it. It has a really good dash though. The dash doesn't only stun the enemy when it hits and has a follow-up attack, but it's also long distance. With that dash you can get actually on most places where Michael can also get. So I'm thinking actually Akashic. So the thing is, whenever I play with Akashic, as when I pilot it, I'm like, wow, this mecha is actually so amazing. But when I can play against it, I take it down so easily. So I don't know what am I doing different than the other people. I think Akashic actually has a lot of potential. It does require you to be aware of your own abilities in relation to the abilities of the enemy. So it requires more awareness, I think, similar to Ventorus and Neutron Star. I think Akashic is kind of fits in that category of very strong, very powerful if you get yourself in the right position, in the right place, and kind of try to outplay the enemy. But it takes some effort and understanding. So yeah, I think it's a versatile mecha actually, because you can also use the dash as an escape or as jumping on a roof. Also the accuracy modules work really well with Akashic, I noticed, because then it also becomes a better medium range brawler. Okay, Moon Rabbit. I think I've been given Moon Rabbit too little credit. Definitely strong. It can fly, similar to Andromeda. Although, if you claw it, so if you can just, so with the Moon Rabbit you don't have to look in the direction where if you want to ascend or descend, you have dedicated buttons for it. For ascending and descending. So theoretically you could be shooting then as well if you claw the ascent and descent button. I've not tried that yet, but I think that actually makes it really powerful. I do think its fly me to the moon mode lacks in damage, and its primary mode lacks in distance. So together they create this very strong kit that's adaptable to most situations. But you do, yeah, so it is adaptable, it's versatile. So if the enemy is further away, you can just start flying and poke them from a distance. And if they're close by, you can just obliterate them with your exploding carrots. It's fast, it can run pretty well. It can get actually in most places. It's just the swapping between the two modes. I mean, it's similar to Ventorus in that sense, that it really takes some practice and understanding. So I think I will place it here. Although Ventorus has a better kit for both situations. No, I will place it here. It's strong. It is versatile, but not as versatile as the Mecha up here, I would say, because the different modes are more specialized. I think that's right. Okay, so Guerilla Hunter I played a lot in last season, and I realized that I've been playing it wrong for a long time, because Guerilla Hunter has incredible damage. Maybe definitely amongst the strongest damage per second potential. The assault rifle is really strong in close to medium range, and long range still functions. Its secondary crossbow bolt shoots almost instantly, super fast, relatively easy to hit actually, good explosive radius, and it gives information. Very valuable in squad games, but also in solo games, to be honest. And then on close range there's this shotgun. And of course you have the teleportation ability. With Core 2 it's amazing. I think this mecha would have been S or maybe even S plus tier. No, S tier, not S plus. If the Core 2 was integrated in it, like so you can always teleport back and forth twice at least. But normally you can only teleport once, and that is, you can outplay the enemy by doing it at unexpected moments. But usually what you want to be doing is you want to open fire at the enemy while you're sending your decoy at it, and in the moment they start firing you swap places with your decoy and just obliterate them in the face with the shotgun. That usually does the trick. It can burst down enemies pretty efficiently. The decoys can also be used as an escape, so it has pretty good engaging and disengaging capabilities, but where it still sucks is its versatile mobility. No, not versatile, it's vertical mobility, sorry. So that's very similar to Firefox or Trio or even Skylark, although Skylark has a far superior horizontal mobility, I would say, to the teleportation of Guerilla Hunter. But Guerilla Hunter has such amazing damage, and it's pretty beefy. It has like 3200 or 3300 even durability, which is definitely up there. Yeah, I think Guerilla Hunter, Akashic, Ventorus, Caramel, those are like the brawlers. Firefox, Skyfall already has a little bit less in Trio. And then of course there's Hotsteel and Doomlight, but they are kind of in their own category. But yeah, Guerilla Hunter is definitely like the medium like brawler size of durability. It takes some practice, but yeah, if you can just keep shooting the enemy, they will either panic and try to run away and then die, or try to fight you, and then if their aim is just as good as yours, they will probably still die, because yeah, you just have such good damage. I think Guerilla Hunter has this currently in the game the strongest melee range damage. So be careful if they're right next to you, although, because you're probably always thinking, oh no, not Hotsteel in my face, oh no, Ventorus, oh no, Michael, oh no, Trio. But it's actually Guerilla Hunter, I think, who's king and queen of the melee range blast to the face. So be careful with that. Alright, so Dreadwolf is another one of those mecha that can get itself in the right position when it needs to. It's a very strong brawler. Maybe Neutron Star is up there, Michael is up there. Yeah, it's definitely top brawler, Arthur as well. But the difference with those other mechas is that Dreadwolf can get itself into position easily. It can engage, then disengage, jumping over a building if the enemy is pushing back a bit too hard, then reload, heal itself, and then engage again. It has very low cooldowns because you can just bunny hop over buildings while shooting. So in that sense, it has a very similar playstyle to Michael and Pulsar, where you can just be falling and shooting. But its range has its limitations. Medium range is already starting to fall off. It's mostly close range. Medium range, already preferably not. But then again, it can just be constantly jumping and evading enemy attacks and dashing, especially with, I think it's core 1 or 2, well, one of the cores. You can dash an additional time, which makes it really hard to target Dreadwolf, and it also is pretty beefy. It's like, I think similar to Arthur, where it has 3100 durability. I'm actually doubting, should I put Dreadwolf here? No, because it cannot get in any position. So it's definitely a very it's actually not a very versatile mecha, but it's very adaptable. So not versatile on long ranges, but versatile when it comes to different fighting surroundings. It's versatile when it comes to making solutions for problems that emerge. So if the enemy is disengaging, it can jump after it. If the enemy is chasing you, it can disengage pretty successfully on different elevations. So in that sense, it's pretty similar to, I would say, Firestar. The engaging, disengaging. Dreadwolf does have really good damage close by. Yeah, I think this is a good spot. Then there's Death Knell. Death Knell received a nerf not so long ago. Previous patch. Also, same thing as what they did to Tempest. They reduced its mobility, its speed. And since it's so squishy, and yeah, it can teleport a little bit with its beacon that it can lay and then swap places once, or when it gets destroyed. It's still pretty good with its mobility. You can get in a lot of places, very similar to Arthur in that sense, but the damage is just way less. Kind of feels nowadays as kind of, yeah, like a sluggish nephew of Michael and Arthur. It's not bad, but it's secondary. You can still sling yourself up on top of some buildings or bridges, but its damage is just falling off. Also, because the speed used to be rivaling Skylark's speed when it was strafing. And I get it, because it shouldn't be the same speed as Skylark's, because it also has the beacon and it also has the melee burst potential, basically, with a secondary weapon. But I think they nerfed it a little bit too much. I mean, it's still strong, don't get me wrong, but it used to be, I think, S rank, and now it is a strong mecha, I think. Or is it now specialized, actually? Because if I'm looking here, all of these mecha, actually, no, I will place it here, because it's, again, B is not bad. It's specialized. It requires a specific playstyle, and if you pull it off, oh, like an assassin, if you pull it off, it's a fun, cool mecha. But I think other mecha above it have a more adaptable kit. Yeah. Then moving on to Camelot. Camelot came out last season. It came out pretty strong, I'm gonna say. It's fast. It runs automatically at a high speed, so similar to Ranger, I think, in its speed. However, it can still activate its ability, so it can jump and dash while being at high speed. And with its jump, you can get in most places where Dreadwolf or Akashic can also get. Its damage is mostly strong in melee to medium range, and the shield, The shield can be useful, but I think of all the shield mecha, I much rather have Northern Knight's shield or... it is better than Doomlight's shield, I would say, because it's a dome. And inside that dome, you can basically isolate the enemy to fight inside of the shield, while the enemy cannot get any support from its allies. Or sometimes I drop the shield in between if I'm disengaging, or I'm dropping the shield in between when I'm engaging, so I throw it in front of me, then charge through it while the enemy is trying to shoot at me while I'm charging. So the shield can be used in multiple ways, so I think that's pretty sweet. Yeah, I think it's just a strong mecha. They didn't have to tweak it so much. I think it's in a pretty good position. And then the latest edition, Skyfire. I like its idea. When it transforms in an actual tank. So not like the stationary tank of Caramel, but a very slow moving tank as a vehicle. But the vehicle, if I compare it to Firestar or, yeah, I mean Hurricane, completely different level. Let's say Firestar or Ranger, they also have vehicle forms. But this one is just too slow. Of course, yes, it does have this amazing volley ability that has been buffed even more. So now it does even more it does less damage, but it shoots more frequently, so technically it does more damage when you release that volley from the tank mode. But its human form, I think they're also buffing the human form in the last 2 patches. And I think the human form is a bit awkward. Because, yeah, it has this cannon that kind of plays similarly to Skyfall. Although I'd much rather have Skyfall's cannons, because they have a better range. But then its secondary of Skyfall is very reliable. The secondary of Skyfire, you have to be in the exact right distance for it to explode and scatter into multiple grenades. And if you don't, it's just a low damaging, hard to hit secondary blast damage, which only does like 350 or something. And I would say that's the weakest secondary ability of maybe all of the mecha. So I would rather see them buff this secondary ability instead of constantly increasing the speed of Skyfire, because I don't think the speed should be its strength necessarily. And I also hope that if they change the vehicle form, okay, they added the dash ability, fine, that is welcome. But it needs more tankiness. I think the tank mode either needs more damage or needs more tankiness, because now it's just too slow to do anything. Basically, how I play Skyfire is I open fire with the secondary in the tank mode when the enemy has not seen me, and then you can just throw this barrage of explosions on them, and if they don't spot you, they're probably dead, because then you transform back and you just keep blasting them on the distance, and that's fun. But you can only do that every so often. Actually, that's the same with Northern Knight. Its secondary weapon only does a lot when you charge it up, basically, and so you basically have to wait for that. And it charges pretty quickly if you manage to deal damage with Skyfire. But it just doesn't do enough. So I really hope Skyfire is going to receive some buffs in the coming patches that improve the vehicle form and just make it a bit more adaptable mecha. Because it's a little bit too straightforward now, I would say. Alright, that was it. So yeah, as always, leave your comments below. What do you see differently? What do you see the same? I think this looks pretty healthy to me. Most mecha are strong or better, and there's a couple of specialized mecha that can still basically take down any other mecha with the right skill set and the right mindset. But yeah, these 5 I definitely think are in a league of their own. I love them also. I love Dreadwolf is one of my favorites. Pulsar, Michael, Hurricane. Caramel is cool, but I would not say one of my favorites. It kind of the weird thing with Caramel is when I play Caramel, it kind of feels like I'm playing on easy mode. I don't know, whoever has this, please let me know in the comments, because I know that people are confused about me ranking Caramel so high, but I think Caramel of all these mecha is kind of easy mode mecha. You just press the shoot button and the jump button and you just kill everyone. Because Andromeda and Hurricane and Michael and Pulsar, they actually take a lot of effort to be good with them. Same goes for the S-rank mecha as well. And Caramel, you just jump into it and obliterate people. So, yeah, let me know what you think. And as always, have a beautiful day and peace.